Have you ever heard the term scarcity mindset? And are you curious as to what that means? Well, in this video, I'm going to not only explain what the scarcity mindset is, I'm going to talk about how it relates to specifically to abusive situations, especially those involving spiritual abuse. Okay, so first of all, introduce myself in case you don't know who I am. My name is Dr. Felucia. I'm a licensed psychologist, and in my private practice and on this channel, I focus on how to identify and prevent and recover from spiritual abuse. So, on to the definition of what a scarcity mindset is. What is that? Well, basically, if you think about the term scarcity, it means that there is not enough of something, right? There's a lack of. It's the opposite of abundance. And so, if somebody who's operating from a viewpoint of scarcity or scarcity mindset has this idea that there is never going to be enough, right? And so basically, get whatever you can while you can because it's not going to last. And I don't want you to feel that I'm shaming or judging people for having a scarcity mindset. Having that mindset is actually adaptive and helpful in certain situations. For people that are have been in situations where supplies, things that they need are not consistent and are not reliable. They've grown up in abusive households, or they've grown up in places and situations where there was a lot of lack. Then a scarcity mindset is actually a survival mindset, because if you don't have steady and reliable access to needed resources, and you just believe, well, I'm going to be able to get what I can when I can, then you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. And so I want you to understand where that scarcity mindset comes from. It's not uncommon at all. People sometimes talk about how their grandparents lived through the Great Depression in the United States, and they talk about how they'll like save everything, right? They never throw anything out. And they might think, well, that's weird. Like, why does grandma or grandpa act that way? But you have to think about the time that they were living in, when there was, famine and very little. And so people had to use and reuse everything they had to survive. So I will preface my discussion about a scarcity mindset by giving you the proper context for what it is and where it comes from. Now, people who are abusive take advantage of the concept of scarcity. And so, people who have been in abusive relationships, whether they're romantic or with people who are family, they'll often hear things like, well, no one's going to treat you better than I will, or no one's going to put up with, no one's going to put up with you like the way I would, or you think someone else is going to take you, things like that. People who have survived abuse will often hear things like that from their abuser. They are given the message that the best that they're going to get is from that abuser and that from that abusive environment. And spiritually abusive people and spiritually abusive environments operate in very similar manners. And so I've seen a lot of comments like this on my channel where people will tell me that they are in the process of leaving a spiritually abusive environment or severing ties with a spiritually abusive person. And they'll hear things like, well, you're never going to find a church as good as ours, or you'll never find anybody that's going to put up with you like the way we would. People will say things like, there's no perfect church out there, and if you find that perfect church and you join it, then it's no longer perfect. And so what are these messages? What's behind these messages? What's behind this message is um there isn't enough to go around, right? And so basically, even though you think we're treating you horribly, this is the best you're going to get. And when people hear this messaging over and over again, it makes it more difficult for them to leave. Um, a lot of times people will say, well, why didn't that person just leave that relationship or that environment? And you have to understand that the process of severing ties with an abusive person or an abusive environment, leaving, is not as easy as just getting up and leaving, right? And so one of the ways in which spiritually abusive people or abusive people in general maintain their hold over the person that they're abusing is by playing up this concept of scarcity. And they're basically sending this message that, look, wherever you go, it will never be as good as you're getting it here. So, yes, we're treating you horribly, or yes, this is bad for you, but it's only going to be worse out there. And people sometimes would rather face the devil that they know than a devil than they don't know. And so they feel like, look, maybe things are worse out there. At least I know how to deal with these people in this environment, so I might as well stay. It's not as uncommon as you think. And so this is where the scarcity comes from. And so people think, well, people are aware of this, but they can also understandably feel powerless as to how to deal with that. And so I'll probably do another video about how to deal with um, coming from a scarcity mindset. If you are interested in that, let me know in the comment section. Do you struggle with scarcity messages? It's not uncommon to deal with that if you have survived any other type of abuse or you've had life circumstances that have led to having a scarcity mindset. It can be something that's difficult to be aware of and difficult to get rid of. It's not impossible, right? You just have to be aware of it, and then have to go through the processes that you need to get free from it. But anyway, if you are interested in getting a video on that, let me know in the comments section, okay? But I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you gotten that scarcity type of messaging from abusive people or spiritually abusive environments? What does that look like? I talk about how, the environments will tell people, well, it's not as good as it is out there, but there are other things that they can say that play up on this message of scarcity, right? They might say things like, saying that nobody will put up with them, saying that no church is better than theirs. But there can also be other things too. They might highlight to you all the time and resources that you invested and basically telling you, you can't get all that back. Um, it's basically it's kind of akin to somebody telling um somebody that they've abused that, hey, well, you gave me your best years. I remember reading something like that in a book, I think, where this person that was abusing their spouse was going to leave, and that person said to the spouse that was going to leave, that you gave me your best years, who's going to want you after that? And so basically highlighting how much resources and energy had already even been invested into that. And there's something called the sunken cost fallacy, where people believe that, look, they've already invested all this time, all this energy, and all these resources. So even though it's not working out, they might as well continue in that same situation instead of going into something new. It's basically saying, look, I've already invested all this into this sinking ship, so I might as well just stay here. Right. These are not things to be ashamed of. This is just kind of, these are fallacies that we all make psychologically. And so it's good to be aware of them so that you can overcome them. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you dealt with the scarcity mindset before? What kind of examples have you come across in your spiritual journey? And what advice do you have to others? And also, if you'd like to book your free consultation, you go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, and there you can book your free consultation and go from there. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comment section, what your reaction is, and you'll hear from me in the next video. So I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace. Bye-bye.